Hello, I'm Judy Stiles. Thank you for joining us this week on Newsmakers. Well, fall 2017 has been the Korea semester at Missouri Southern. A lot of presentations and topics, and as we head toward the end of the semester, we have a special presentation with some premier music, world premiere here on the campus of Missouri Southern, and we're focusing on that today. Joining me to begin with, we have Phil Wise, from the professor of music from the music department here on campus, and Bret Zvacek, who's a composer involved in this production. And thank you both for being here today.
Good to be here. Thank you.
I'm sure the audience is curious when I say a world premiere of some music here at Missouri Southern. Probably need some background, and let us know, how did this happen? How did this come to Missouri Southern?
Well, about a year ago, when the Korean semester was decided through the International Institute, I had always sparked interest in the music department and has sparked interest in the jazz studies area for a number of years. We've actually had some commissions through the Turkey semester and also the Cuba semester. So I thought this would be an interesting semester to maybe have a commissioned work, and spoke to Dr. Chad Stebbins about this, and he was very, very supportive of the concept. And I thought, well, okay, now who do we get to compose a piece of music based upon Korean folk music for a jazz ensemble? And thought long and hard about that, but actually the answer came at my 40th high school class reunion when I went back to Iowa for that reunion. Bret's wife is in the same high school class, and I met him for the very first time there. And of course recognized the name immediately as a really fine composer who had actually performed some of his works with some of the large jazz groups. And so we got to visiting a little bit, and lo and behold, he agreed to write this piece, and we rehearsed it the other night. It's a wonderful, wonderful piece. So that's some basic history of how it came about, and I think very interesting.
It's really made it a small world. Through someone you know, you find out that you have someone right here ready to help you out.
It is a small world in the music world, that's for sure.
Well, let's start off with a little bit of background about you. You've mentioned that you have a lot of world attention of things that you've done. So let's share some information for the audience, and they say kind of introduce yourself to them.
Well, certainly. So originally I am from the state of Iowa, as is Dr. Wise here, okay, from different towns. It's interesting, we kind of sort of had parallel careers in a lot of ways. We both play the trombone. We're both college educators who work in with music students, a lot of work in the jazz studies area. And we both had some professional experience as performers and whatnot. And I've always, for a long time, I've known about Phil and known of him via reputation as an educator and an author and whatnot. And I always knew he was from the same hometown as my wife was, and things like that. And she'd always tell me things about Phil, about what a great musician he was in high school, and just all about his career and things like that. So anyway, we're talking about Phil. Myself, I'm from originally from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I went to the University of Iowa for undergraduate school. For graduate school, I went to the University of North Texas in Denton, Texas, and I played in a group that's well known in the collegiate jazz world, the 1 o'clock University of North Texas 1 o'clock lab band. I played in that group in graduate school, where I wrote music for the band and was a trombone soloist also. And after my time at North Texas, I got an appointment at the State University of New York at Potsdam, SUNY Potsdam. We have a music school up there known as the Crane School of Music. And another thing that Phil and I have in common is that we do a lot of work with music education students as well. So I'm the jazz studies professor at the Crane School of Music, working with performance and music education students as well. And as far as like writing music, I've written music for large jazz ensembles. I've done string arrangements and that sort of thing for singer-songwriters, some pop music arrangements, written some music for full orchestra, and just a wide variety of different kinds of things. So I work as a teacher, I play the trombone, and I write music also.
And you have some spare time in doing that, right? It's a lot of busy activities, and you both work with students. I know I heard both of you say that. So your love of music, you're sharing with tomorrow's generation.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the world of education, is to share the art form, in particular jazz art form of improvisation, the creative aspects of that. You know, I don't know if there's a lot known about the creative aspects in music, but we certainly have to afford students opportunities, and that improvisational aspect of that, and even the creative aspect of composing or arranging, which Bret does and teaches, fosters that love, and I think keeps the art of jazz alive. It's very important to be able to do that, I feel.
So when you found out about this opportunity for commission work and dealing with the Korean aspect of music, you mentioned folk music, how did you approach that? That sounds like a unique mix there.
It's an interesting mix. Well, I had some experience with a similar sort of project about 5 or 6 years ago. I had another commission. It was from another university, from Syracuse University in Syracuse, New York. And the commission was for a big band piece, a large band piece, and the featured soloist was NEA jazz master David Lehman on jazz saxophone. And that had a sort of a international kind of framework for that commission too. It was meant to sort of combine Arab music and Jewish music elements in kind of a one piece, okay? So geopolitically speaking, you can tell where that kind of is gonna go, because you have kind of a couple different sort of approaches which may sort of tend to be at odds with one another, both in a political and cultural kind of way. So the music kind of reflected that to a certain extent. So, the music is written and it's got kind of a conceptual cultural framework as well. So I felt okay about like doing a mix-up of things here, because I had another one of those projects under my belt. And as far as Korea goes, it was pretty interesting. I spent a lot of time doing some legwork on it before I even started writing any of the music. And I learned a lot about Korean music just in general. Well, before there was North Korea and South Korea. Well, obviously, North Korea and South Korea are very much in the news these days, and we're not necessarily going to go into that at this point. And the music doesn't even really reflect that. For a long time, there was one Korea. So that's kind of how I approached it, looking for music sources, which were, and the charge that I received from the university was pretty specific in terms of a work that was supposed to combine jazz elements and traditional Korean music. And I welcome the specificity in that regard, because in terms of Korean music, if it's just Korean music, period, there is a lot of really vibrant popular music and a lot of very contemporary kind of stuff that comes out of Korea, well, South Korea specifically. So it's a really wide palette of things to draw from. But if we narrow it down to sort of traditional oriented Korean music, that kind of gave me a more finite
path.
A much clearer path. If I may add one other thing too, another thing I discovered in the research is I did a little checking into the music of South Korea versus the music of North Korea, and it was going to kind of be my expectation that like South Korean music was going to be all popular, technical, and kind of MTV-ish and just sort of pop stuff, for lack of a better term, and that the North Korean side of things would be the more traditional conservative sort of thing. But actually I found that it was quite opposite, or not quite opposite, but in the South Koreans have seemed to have taken a real interest in preserving traditional Korean music, which spans many, 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 many centuries. And in the North, they really kind of eschewed the whole idea of embracing traditional musics. So there really isn't like North Korean music per se. I mean, the only things we see is that sort of stylized Soviet bloc propaganda kind of music that gets shown with the whatever,
marching or whatever.
with people marching and that sort of thing. So. So that being said, I focused primarily on folk music kind of elements for the piece. And if I may add something else here, the Korean folk songs generally are rather short. They're probably like 2 or 3 phrase songs, or maybe 30, 45-second songs. And my job is to expand that into, number one, something for a larger group of musicians, and number two, into something that's musically got some more material. So I had some fairly small little germs of material that I worked with, and then I wrote material that kind of enhanced that and framed that, I guess.
So now you have the opportunity with your students to take this music, and I imagine you've had a lot of time to take what he's written, working with the students to learn a new style.
Well, we have, and that's the beauty, I think, of the theme semesters, is to take that culture of that particular country and fuse it into other disciplines.
Right.
And so yeah, it's been wonderful, and the experience this semester, and I did indeed charge Bret very specifically on some of these things, especially with regard to instrumentation, which is not particularly traditional instrumentation for a large big band, nor a small combo group. But I like that instrumentation, and it works well. He composed a wonderful 3-movement work, and the students I sent them the MIDI files so they could actually hear that, which he sent me originally. And so they had that aspect of hearing it sort of in a very neutral way, because the files were not, they were computer files.
Right.
So then when we put it together and I actually had all the timbral colors and the instruments playing, I think they were amazed as much as I was how it just comes to life.
So do they kind of have a wow moment?
Yeah, I think, oh, absolutely. And then all the improvisational aspects that Brent put into the work. The freedom of course, within the jazz idiom also enhances that. So all of that said, I think it just sort of grows and develops and culminates. And then last evening we actually rehearsed the work. Bret spent some time going through some very specific things with us that he had in his mind about the work, and so we tried to follow that as best we could, and I think we will hopefully, I think, succeed this evening.
With the presentation.
I hope so.
Great.
Well,
so
absolutely.
going from your writing, your thoughts, to the actual hearing the performance, what's the reaction from a composer's point of view when you hear this group doing what you have taken the time to write and plan?
Well, this group is a terrific group. The players individually are fantastic. It's a mix of some current students, and there's some alumnus, from MSSU who are part of the group, and I think we have a couple faculty members as well who are doing some playing. So it's a really nice mix of people, and everyone is really fine player. The sound of the ensemble is really homogeneous. The soloists have great ideas, and the approach is fantastic. I was really pleased. The only things I mentioned were just very minor kinds of things, very minor kinds of things, just little detail-oriented kind of things. These guys really had it together. They didn't need me there at all for anything.
You could tell they put a lot of work into it.
So their leader here, Professor Wise, taught them well.
So
Great
what
work.
would you like the audience to come away from after hearing the performance?
Well, I think I think probably some enjoyment out of that, and to see the creative aspect of jazz, and maybe outside of sort of the traditional jazz realm, that it can sort of move beyond barriers of style, and it can be fused together. And jazz has some history of that, not necessarily in the dramatic way perhaps that Bret's composed this work, but I think some enjoyment out of this, and to learn maybe some traditional folk tune melodies and how it can be fused to jazz.
It sounds like it really is indeed tying into the international theme of the semester, that you are bringing Missouri Southern's mission in a musical way to our community and our students.
That's the goal, of course. You know, we're charged as this university through the state to focus that, and we're very honored actually in the music department to present that best way that we know how.
Great. Well, I know we have some students who are going to join us on the program who are going to give us some firsthand accounts working with you, and both of you, on this music. So I'd like to thank you, both of you, for being on this part of the program, and thank the audience for joining us, because we're going to hear from the students right after this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome back to Newsmakers. We're talking about a world premiere special jazz performance here at Missouri Southern, and joining me now on the program, 3 students who are involved in the performance. I'd like to introduce Raemon Wilson and Josh Newburry and Mark Knowles. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
I know the audience has heard in the first part of the program about the work that it took to plan and get everything prepared. We're interested in this part of the show to get the student perspective. So I'll start off with you. Your reaction when you found out that you were going to be part of a group doing world premiere music.
Oh yeah, I was excited at first. I have never played anything that is like, I've been the first to play this music. You know what I mean? And the experience was it was different. When I first saw the music, I didn't know what to expect and how it's supposed to sound. And I was afraid that the composer might be, you need to do more of this. I don't want that or this. I kind of was wondering what should I give, what should I put into the music, but the minute I start playing the music itself provides like a map for you in terms of improvisation or whatever the music needs, it provides it itself. And I really enjoyed the music, and I believe me and my colleagues here, they both, we all enjoyed the music. We couldn't stop talking about it the first time, and the first time we played it, we didn't have the whole ensemble. And from then we was impressed, but you know, after the whole ensemble got together, it was really interesting, and it was fun to work with. I definitely personally enjoyed playing it, especially the last movement where we're gonna play. But it always a new experience for me.
Great. The people who enjoy music, listening to music, realize that it's really a collective, a teamwork effort, that each of you have your piece in the music. So share your experiences and getting your piece, your involvement in this performance.
Well, it's really neat to play a new style of music per se. To have the Korean elements. It was really hard to figure out exactly what we needed to do to contribute to a style that we never really heard before,
right?
And so it was kind of tricky in that element. But like Ray said, once we started playing, it really provides its own kind of breath, and you can tell where it needs to go. And so it was really neat. It wasn't too difficult once we started getting into it, and it was just such. It was written so well that it was really easy to tell what we needed to do, I think. So
Mark, would you say that they've been kind of saying that the composer's really making it easy for you to interpret what they want you to do? And
yes, it was like, for me, it was more to say, I wonder would it sound something like we would hear inside a movie, but it wasn't really that to say, yeah, it's a new style. So it's more to say, to listen, adapt, improve.
Great. Yeah. Now, one thing I haven't asked each of you is your specific instruments, how you are involved in the group. So tell us what you play, Judy.
I am the drummer.
Okay.
Yeah, I play the drums.
And you?
I play bass.
And your specialty?
I play the tenor saxophone.
So we've got a lot of variety in the instruments here. So when we're talking about a performance like this, you have different instruments with different roles, and tying all of this together. When you started working together as a group, everybody blending it together, what was that moment when you say, hey, we are really coming together and this is sounding like what we want it to be? You have your role, you have your separate roles.
For me, it was the first time we played. And like I said, I was really surprised that what came out of the music. Like I said, I didn't know what to expect, because Korean music, nobody really listens to Korean music. But I mean, I was just blown away. Like I said, I was just blown away, and everything I was more impressed with the horn work. Mm-hmm. Like the rhythm section was good, but the horn work was really impressive, and how he arranged everything. It was something definitely new. And it was hard to believe that I'm the first to play this, and I actually kind of set the standard of how it's supposed to sound the first time anybody ever hear it. So it was really enjoyable.
Same thing. You're playing. You're a part of that performance for the first time.
Yeah. So it's a new experience for sure, to be able to set kind of a precedent for something. So who knows? Maybe jazz Korean fusion will be a big hit. But so it was really neat to be able to do, as Ray said, set the precedent. And yeah, so we play a lot of jazz typically,
right.
And so it's kind of neat to be able to bring that sort of perspective to this, like with what they were saying earlier about the improv elements and things like that. So it's just kind of a new experience, but still keeping with what we do a lot.
So it ties in well to the jazz performances that you're used to doing.
Yes, it ties in very well.
And I know the Southern Jazz ensembles, the groups that you have, the collectives, you have a large following. When you have a performance, we have a packed house. It's always a big. So you're being able to share with an audience, not only at Missouri Southern, but like you say, you're setting the tone for everyone else around the world to see what this music sounds like. What's your reaction to that when you say, what we're doing is going to be followed up down the road?
Well, for me, it's more to say it's mind-blowing, because not only was the piece commissioned by us, we have the composer here too, so it's more to say the ship is ready to set sail. So, yeah.
Now, from the education standpoint, you're working with a composer who actually, sometimes you might get music in the mail or whatever, then but you actually meet the person who wrote the music. How did that impact you?
Yeah, well, for me, I've been playing drums for a long time, and I haven't been playing jazz for like most of my life. Since I went off to school like in 2012, and then I came here is when I really get into jazz. So every time I hear someone new come in, every new artist, I tend to grab anything that I could grab from them, you know, sponge up anything that they say about getting better about jazz. And I was kind of like, you know, I felt good when he came here. Like he said, he had minor details about the piece, and I was prepared to hear, you know, the drummer, don't do this, or too much of that, or too much of this. But it was actually more of this or more of that. What you're doing is fine, and it kind of boost my confidence a little bit about the piece, and I think I know exactly what I'm looking for, what he's looking for, and to give everybody what they need to help with the piece, you know. And that was the thing. Especially he gave the 2 drum solos. That was like, oh wow, what do I do here, you know? But you know, like I said, the music itself, you know, sets the tone of what I need to do, give the platform, you know, build from here. You know, the music itself, just can't wait to play it.
So the beautiful thing about jazz music is it's all a collaboration all the time, you know, and it's everybody contributing to make a unified thing. So to have an actual composer here giving us the overall, this is what the unified experience needs to be, while still keeping our individual integrity from the jazz type of thing, you know, that's really neat, and it's just really cool to be able to go through that. So,
and your feelings?
Well, my feelings about it, since playing jazz is more to say it's like a conversation, to tell a story, and so now we have somebody's story to tell and paint. So.
That adds to the experience. Now, of course, Missouri Southern's International Mission, when we talked about in the first half of this program, being able to tie that into music education. You know, we have the Korea semester. It's had a lot of different things. To be able to say that, you know, we played a key role in the Korea semester through music. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, when they first came to Southern, I was kind of skeptical about all the different semesters and the different, you know, the different countries that we pick a theme for every country, and I was like, what is all that about, you know? And when I heard that this semester, it was the previous semesters were quite interesting, and you know, the music department at some point played a theme based on the country that we're doing. And this year, I was kind of skeptical about, you know, what are we going to play? You know, what are we going to do this year for Korean? You know, I've heard of Chinese music and Japanese music, but I've never heard of Korean music, and it's pretty much Oriental based. But to see that the school actually bring this out, you know, it was kind of amazing for me, you know.
So you've learned a lot on the cultural side.
Yeah. just on the song alone, and now, you know, and I think once we play the song and once people hear it, you know, they'll be, you know, turned on to Korean music and want to hear more. I definitely, for one, want to learn more about Korean music.
So has it invited both of you an interest in wanting to do more as well?
Yeah. So it's pretty neat. So.
And the audience, we talked about the first part of the program. I asked Dr. Weiss about, you know, what do you like the audience to leave with? What, from your performance perspective as performers, you know, what would you like people to leave after they see the performance, remembering about the music?
Well, kind of like what Dr. Weiss said, our goal is to entertain, and to be able to entertain in a new way, I think would really give the audience just it's going to be exciting. So and that's what I hope they take away from it. I hope they're excited by it.
And of course, you are all very obviously excited about being able to perform and do this.
Yes.
Is this something that you feel will help you in your future careers as musicians, and you know, beyond just this one performance that you're doing, but as you look at possibilities for the future where you can take music and what your education, your future professional goals? Yeah,
definitely. I think, you know, music. Being a musician, you know, the world has it as, you know, it's a tough road to trot, and you know, everybody wants to take the route of being like a doctor or a lawyer or something where the money is. But you know, as a musician, you know, the reward isn't the money, you know, it's getting to play music like this, and you know, playing something that is fresh to the new era, you know, that is very refreshing to hear. It's inspiring, you know. It's inspiring to not only play new music, but to reinvent, you know, standards and traditional music that we hear all the time, but to hear it, play it every time, every time you play it, you're never gonna hear that again. You play your own style of it. It's it's unique every time. That's the refreshing part. And in education terms, education is my passion. I think that you should not, as a musician, you should not be selfish and just hold on everything that you have, because you're not gonna last long on earth. You should pass on your legacy and pass on knowledge that you should, that future generations to come.
So you can share this in the future as well, and tying that together.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself being able to share this experience in the future as well?
Yeah, I think it's really neat in that aspect, and a very important thing for a musician is being able to adapt to different styles and different new environments where you need to play, and so to be able to do something where a style is completely new, I think that's really neat. So.
And for you?
Yeah, for me, it's gonna be a good time. Trust me, I'm excited to say, it's more to say it's going to start off and everybody's going to be patient, and as it comes, it's going to be like a roller coaster. It's going to go up, go up, go up, go up, and when you reach the top,
be prepared, huh?
Really be right at the top.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be a fun event, and that you've put a lot of hard work in, and really looking forward to sharing this for the first time, world premiere here at Missouri Southern. I'd like to thank the three of you for joining me on this portion of the program.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. And I'd like to thank the audience for joining us this week on Newsmakers. We've talked about a world premiere, music tying into the Korea semester here at Missouri Southern with the Jazz Department, and hope you can join us again next week at the same time on this station. I'm Judy Stiles.